Are you a dentist looking to build wealth, maybe create passive income, and be able to eventually step away from the chair? Are there things that you feel like you should or could be doing, but you just don't know where to start? Hi, I'm Jonathan Moffat, a wealth strategist who's built and sold an 8-practice DSO. Now, I help dentists align their practice success with their personal financial freedom. Each week on this podcast, you'll discover strategies to boost your practice profitability, multiply your wealth, and transform your dental career into the lifestyle you've always dreamed of. This is Dental Wealth Multiplier. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dental Wealth Multiplier. I'm Jonathan Moffat. With me is Austin Moffat, and we are both pleased to have with us a special guest, someone I've known for, 15 plus years, Mr. Steve Anderson.
Great to be with the brothers Moffat.
Well, great to have you. And we've obviously been you and your brother as well, Greg, through Crown Counsel. Maybe we'll have a little bit of time to get into Crown Counsel here and talk about what an amazing organization that is, and Smiles for Life, and just kind of all the amazing impact you've been able to have there. I know I was reading through your bio, and it's the foundation, Smiles for Life Foundation. You guys have raised over $50 million for kids and dental charities worldwide, which is amazing. I mean, that's truly amazing. So congratulations, and thank you for making such a massive impact, not only in our space, but across the globe as well. It's awesome that you guys have been able to do that.
That is Smiles for Life Foundation is a huge effort. Thousands of people involved in raising that money through the whitening campaign we do every year. It's a great new patient generator, but it raises a ton of money that benefits a lot of people. So it's a fun effort for doing good.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get one of these days, I'm going to get on a trip. We actually, this last year, you may or may not know, for our client Christmas gift, we gave everyone put in, you could nominate an employee, a team member, and then we did a raffle, and we're actually sending one of our clients out of Austin. His dental assistant is who we drew, and she's going on a Smiles for Life trip that we'll pay for her. We'll pay all expenses paid trip to go on a Smiles for Life charitable dental trip. So
that's awesome. So she'll be going to either the Dominican Republic or Mexico.
She's going to October. I think she's going in October.
And so those are one of the projects that we fund through the Smiles for Life Foundation. So dental humanitarian expeditions, where they get work side by side with local dentists in those countries. So it's a life-changing experience. It is remarkable.
Well, it's great. Like I said, I've had the pleasure of being at many Crown Counsel award ceremonies and seeing just, again, the impact that you guys, see Garth Brooks on stage and other fun things you guys get to do through that foundation. So again, thank you for that massive contribution. Well, again, our guest today needs no introduction. Steve Anderson's easily one of the most well-known and most recognized voices in the dental business. Every time Steve and I get the chance to connect, it's like we start just popping off all the amazing things he's doing, which is amazing. Known in dentistry as the Yes Man, he's helped many of the biggest names in our industry grow thriving practices with systems that make it easier for patients to say yes to treatment. And so Steve's the founder of Total Patient Services Institute, Crown Counsel, and Smiles for Life. He's a best-selling author, award-winning entrepreneur, and one of the most respected thought leaders in our space. Thank you for being here, Steve.
Thanks. This is a great collaboration today. And for context, and I've told Austin, I think I've told you this. I did have some early aspiration of being an accountant. And, after I took the first day of Accounting 101, I finished that first day, that first class, and it was very clear to me that it was not my calling. So I have huge admiration for what the two of you do. And I have a huge respect for what I've chosen to do in my business life is surround myself with really good financial expertise, because that area is not, creating all the financial pieces is not my strength. I like to use financial information to make really good decisions. And so I really appreciate everything the two of you do to make it easy for business owners like me to do what we do best. So hats off to you guys. You do something I could never do myself. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Let me tell you, that debits and credits conversation, that's it. You're either in or you're out.
I was done after that. It's like, So, Jonathan, as you mentioned, just for those that may be listening, that this is their first time, our first time together, a couple of points that I think are relevant. One, I'm not a dentist. I take pride in that. I should have been a dentist. I think I was sharing with Austin recently. I took an aptitude test when I was 18. And I had forgotten about the results, but I went back and reviewed them recently. And my number one career recommendation was dentistry.
Interesting.
This is trivia, but I score in the 95th percentile worldwide in finger dexterity. This right here.
No way.
I've never done anything with it, but that was one of the main reasons I got a dentistry. So I'm not a dentist. I'm a patient. I consider myself a human behavior researcher, investigator. I gained a love for this early on. I got an open reading assignment in the 3rd grade, and the book that I chose was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Something wrong with that at 8 years old.
I love it.
Great book.
But what I love to do is I'm always on the hunt for what works. My thesis project in college and business school was why businesses fail. I did an entire year-long research project on that. And so I've been on this path for a long time, got drawn into dentistry a long, long time ago from some dentists that discovered what we were doing in other areas of business, fell in love with it, and we fell in love with dentistry and have been doing it ever since. And so our team at Total Patient Service, which is our coaching education team, we focus, Jonathan, as you mentioned, on one word, and that word is yes. Is what does it take to create an environment where it's easier for the patient to say yes to needed treatment? So everything we do is centered around that. And our community that's grown over the years, the Crown Council is focused on going on how to create the culture, what we call a culture of success, that makes it easier for team members and patients to do the right thing. And so, speaking of the right thing today, we're going to talk about 5 things real quickly. And this is really where our worlds merge. We show practices how to make the money. You guys show them how to keep it, right? You account for them. And then, Jonathan, you work on ways to help them keep it and grow it. And so this is really where they intersect. And from a practice management standpoint, what I'm going to share are 5 ways, 5 things that every dentist should do every day. So this is a daily discipline that every dentist should engage in to ensure that what they make, they keep, that it stays in the right place. So here's just real quickly, purpose of the conversation of what we'll do in the next few minutes. Save time and save money, eliminate a lot of frustration. It's designed to protect patient assets, meaning everything the patient brings into the practice, then that stays in the practice. Protect practice assets, so what belongs to the practice stays in the practice. This will protect team members. It protects the owner, the leader of the practice, provides more peace of mind for everybody concerned. So this is really the design of what we're gonna do. And again, 5 easy, simple things. So let me give you the part of the backstory. I have a controller in one of my companies who has become one of my most respected mentors. I pulled him out of retirement from Verizon. So he was a career controller at Verizon. He took early retirement with a great payout, never had to work again. I knew him, and I knew retirement was not going to fit well with him. And Jonathan, I know you work really hard to get dentists can retire, but it's more like financial freedom.
Yes.
But I knew that retirement was just not going to work for him. He's just not like that. So I waited for about 90 days till he ran out of stuff to do. And then I called him up and I made this proposal to him. His name is Steve. And so I said, Steve, I've got, a place in one of my companies and I really need somebody like you. And I said, I can't afford you, because you have way more expertise than what we need. But I want to take you out of your misery, out of retirement, and get you back productive. And so he thought about it and he called me back and he said, okay. He goes, I thought about this. And he goes, I've got a couple of conditions. And I said, all right, hit me. And he said, I'll agree to do this under the condition that you never, ever, ever, ever trust your accountant. And I said, well, Steve, you're going to be my accountant. And he said, that's right. I said, well, why would I hire somebody I can't trust? He said, I didn't say can't trust. He said, don't trust. In other words, you're never going to put me in a position where you have to operate on trust alone, because that's not fair to me and it's not wise for you. So he said, I'm going to show you how big companies, big organizations set up checks and balances so they never have to run on trust alone. So she is, it's not fair to a team member to put them in a position where everybody just has to trust them, especially when you're talking about handling money. It's not fair to them to set them up like that. Right. And it's not good business just to operate on trust. So that was, and he's taught me so much over the years, and he tests me. Every once in a while, he called me up not too long ago and I was on the road, and he called me up and he goes, hey, Steve, he goes, listen, we got a vendor that, really needs to get paid. And he says, all right, is it all right if I just sign the check for you and we get this out the door? And I said, sure, Steve, go ahead. And he goes, have I not taught you anything?
Failed the test.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Anyway, so that's kind of a little bit of the background. So these 5 things are things that protect team members, so you never have to question whether they're doing the right thing. And it gives the dentist and the practice owner the peace of mind of knowing that everything that's coming into the practice or should be coming into the practice is actually coming in and stays in the practice. All right, so let's talk about, these are 5 areas of potential loss that need to be checked every day. So this is one of the most overlooked areas, and I'm gonna be counterculture here for just a minute. So area number 1 is lost patients. Well, how can you lose a patient? Well, here, and again, I could give you a whole backstory of case after case after case, why you need to check these areas. But here's the first area is checking to make sure you have the proper patient check-in procedure. So there is a phrase, especially when I was in Boston recently, and I was speaking at the Boston Yankee meeting, and one of my real good friends in Boston is Dr. Mike Shalaba, who leads the Massachusetts State Dental Board. And one of the things that he said to me, everybody knows this, especially in legal, is that if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. I mean, that's when push comes to shove. If you're ever called on the carpet for malpractice or anything that has to do with the state board, if it's not in writing, you're defenseless. I mean, it's got to be in writing. So this is one area, is what's your patient check-in procedure? So this is going to sound really retro and old-fashioned, but I'm going to give you the standard, and then you can check it against your digital system and see if you have a digital check-in system, if it meets this standard. So here's the standard. This, what I'm going to show you, is a HIPAA compliant form that is a patient sign-in form. HIPAA compliant because they can sign in and then it makes a copy of their signature, and you can take off, it's an adhesive thing, you can take it off as they sign in. So there's no exposure to this. Now, again, you might say, well, Steve, come on, this is like old fashioned. Here's the deal, is the standard for protection is you must have a patient sign-in system in the patient's writing. So in other words, if they just click a button to sign in, not sufficient. That's not proof they sign in. Anybody can click a button. what you have to have is their signature in some way, shape, or form in their writing that they checked in. So if you don't have a patient sign-in system that has the patient's signature when they sign in, it's not sufficient.
So Steve, let me ask a couple questions here. What is this protecting the doctor from?
Two things. Okay, permission to speak openly. Okay, because I'm going to get into the land of nefarious people who do things dishonestly. So what if you don't have this, then basically anybody could sign a patient in, including a patient that never showed up, they could potentially bill a patient's insurance who never showed up and get paid in some way, shape, or form for transactions that never happened. So unless you have something that proves that the patient was there in their handwriting, you're opening yourself up to potential malfeasance. Okay, so this is all based on case studies and things that have happened. But bottom line is the standard is to have a patient check-in process with the patient signature. So if your digital system has someplace where the patient literally signs in their handwriting, that's good if it's digitized. If not, this is the standard. So you've got something in writing. This form, HIPAA compliant, this is on Amazon. So if you just search for HIPAA compliant patient sign-in sheet, this will show up. Otherwise, your practice management software, if it's integrated digital sign-in, as long as it's in their handwriting, you're good. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, lost production. How could you lose production? Well, so these are potential procedures that got performed that never got billed. Okay, so you want to make sure that the team, okay, so we got the clinical team, then you got the business team. We got to make sure that everything was coded and recorded properly. So the second place to check, we're going to do this every day. If I'm the provider, I'm going to check the patient sign-in sheet, make sure that everybody that I saw actually signed in, and that there's nobody that I didn't see, right? That there's no names on there that I don't recognize. The second thing I'm going to check is my provider day sheet. So it's long, it's got a lot of stuff on there, but I'm going to check this to make sure that everything I did shows up. Right. So again, if you do this every day, it only takes a few minutes. If you cannot do this once a week, too much, but this is a daily, how you wrap up the day. So did everybody I see sign in, and did everybody who sign in, did they get seen? Okay. So that's check one. Check two, day sheet. Is everything that I did, is every procedure that I performed on this day sheet, and are there any procedures that I didn't do on this form? See what I'm saying is if one potential area of loss is if there's something going on that shouldn't be going on, procedures can show up here that you never did, which is then a red flag of, wait a minute, is everything going supposed to go? Is everybody doing what they're supposed to do? So again, checks and balances to make sure that the right hand knows what the left hand's doing and everybody's on the same page.
So Steve, if you had a practice, let's say you've got 4 associates, right? Is it safe to assume that, or safe to say that you would have your associate, each doctor, each provider checks their own day sheet? And then speaking of checks and balances, do you have them sign off saying, yes, I checked my day sheet for the day, and then turn that into like the office manager? Or how would you run that with a kind of an associate run practice?
Think about it, because if you're an associate and you're being paid on production or collections, which most everybody is, you would, in fact, I would, if I were an associate, I'd demand that this be part of my daily routine, because I want to make sure I get paid for everything I did. So yeah, I want to check this.
Right.
Make sure that everything I did got attributed to me, right? So all my production got coded to me, didn't get coded to somebody else, didn't get coded to the hygienist, or didn't get coded to, the whoever else. That everything I did got credited to me, and that everything I did got posted. So absolutely, I'm going to do that.
Well, and I would think too, from the protecting the owner doctor, right? You want to make sure that if you're paying on collections or net production or adjusted production, things that like x-rays, for example. Well, where does that go? Does that go on the assistant? Does that get assigned to the doctor? If it's not supposed to be assigned to a doctor, but is assigned to the doctor, now you're paying a percentage on procedures that maybe the doctor shouldn't have been paid on.
Oh, yeah. I could tell stories.
Yeah.
About this.
I'm sure.
Yeah, this is a real critical. Again, check and balance, just double check, make sure everything landed where it was supposed to. Okay.
Awesome.
So we got patient check-in sheet. We got the provider day sheet, making sure everything's there. All right. Number 3, adjustments. So this requires some guidelines. So one of the things that we recommend, our TOPS team recommends, is a document, this is an internal document, financial guidelines for the team that outlines all things financial and what's permitted, including what can be adjusted off and what has to have approval before it can be adjusted off. So for example, in most practices we work with, we set a standard that says if the write-off is going to be more than, let's say $200 or $100, whatever it is, you pick the amount. If we're going to write off more than that amount, it has to have doctor approval. If somebody's going to write something off, we better all be in agreement that what we're doing. So one of the areas to check every day is the adjustments report, is what got adjusted off. Now, the other check and balance is in the financial guidelines, there are, and in the practice management software, there's defined adjustments. And one adjustment that is not permitted is miscellaneous. There are no miscellaneous write-offs or adjustments. It has to be, whether it's an insurance adjustment, whether it's a courtesy discount for friends, family members, whatever, prepayment discount, whatever it is. But they are defined adjustments. There's no just kind of like general adjustments. Right. So again, you're going to review the adjustment report to make sure that everything's in alignment, everybody knows what they're doing. So again, there's no credit adjustments, debit adjustments, miscellaneous, etc. They need to be specific categories. So specific categories like insurance adjustment, prepayment 5% courtesy adjustment, a friends and family. If you have a friends and family policy, then that would be an approved adjustment. If you have an employee discount, that's an adjustment. So all the adjustment categories need to be specifically defined. Nothing general, nothing miscellaneous, because that just opens things up to potential.
Right. It's one of the, as you know, it's one of the biggest red flags for that there is more than likely embezzlement happening in the practice.
Correct.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got the patient check-in, you got the provider day sheet, you got the adjustment report. The fourth area is lost deposits. Okay. So this is just a quick check. We're going to make sure that the deposit report matches the deposit slip. Okay. In other words, is what went into the bank the same thing that what we've reported that shows up in the practice management software is what it says got deposited. Those two things need to match. Now, I grew up in a house. My dad ran the largest ad agency in the Western United States his whole career, and one of his biggest accounts was one of the largest banks in the West. So I got raised on a pretty heavy diet of banking training, and one of the things, common knowledge, but one of the things I was trained early on is that if you're a teller at the bank, you don't go home unless you balance out. Mm-hmm. At the end of your shift, you have to balance out that the money that you started out with and that you gave out, deposits received and money given out, that all that has to match 100%. And that if you're even 1 penny off, you can't be 1 penny off. If you're 1 penny off and you can't find it, you're putting a penny in the deposit drawer to make up. Everything has to match 100%. So same thing here is deposit reports. So what the practice management software says when in the bank matches your bank deposit, so that those two things match up. Now there's a lot of things. Let me address two things. most everything can be done today electronically. So, desktop clearing for checks, everybody ought to be doing desktop clearing where you can just deposit the slips. You don't have to go to the bank.
Right.
That's pretty clear. If there is a bank deposit that needs to be made for cash, the rule, this is the check and balance rule, is whoever writes out the deposit slip, so whoever collects the money, is different than the person who takes the money to the bank. So unless you're the practice owner, you can do whatever you want. But if we have different team members doing this, so if a team member collects the money, that needs to be a different person than the person who takes the money to the bank. So typically, we'll say the only person that goes to the bank is the owner dentist, or if it's a multiple location, it's a practice administrator, but it's different than the person who collected the money, right?
Yeah.
Check and balance, make sure it all works. This is one, insurance companies started this virtual credit card payment system where they send you a virtual credit card as payment for claims. And it is a mess. It creates wide open opportunity for theft because a virtual card, anybody can use a virtual card. So in some cases, they send these by email. Sometimes they send them by text or by fax. It's just a mess. So we've worked with practices and they just start doing this. And so in some practices, we've had to escalate it all the way to the CEO of the company to get them to stop. So again, These are little things that just create a potential problem. If you got a virtual credit card payments, anybody could pick that up and use it. The cleaning crew at night could pick it up if somebody happens to just kind of leave it out somewhere. So no virtual credit cards. So again, deposit slip, make sure that check and balance is there so everything matches what came in, stayed in, and actually went in the bank. Okay, so quick review again. Patient sign-in sheet, check. Provider day sheet, check. Adjustment report, check. Bank deposit, check. Area number 5 is lost entries or edits. So this is the audit trail report. This is probably the most neglected report in dentistry. So every practice management software has an audit trail report so that tracks every entry that was made in the practice. So this can be voluminous. Here's the protocol. Only the owner or lead administrator, so if it's a multi-site practice, this would be somebody in a leadership role, should be the only one that has access to the audit trail report. Why? It tracks every entry into the system. So when I review this, I'm looking for what's circled here. I'm looking for anything that has been deleted, right? So if I go to the audit trail and I've got payments that have been deleted, it's like, wait a minute. Why have these been deleted? Why has the payment been deleted out of the system? So again, a check and balance, I had to have access to this. And that's primarily what I'm looking for is any entry that's been deleted, because we need to have an explanation for that to understand why anything was, if a payment was changed, why was it changed? It was deleted, why was it deleted? So we're just looking for anything that's out of the ordinary that then merits an explanation.
Right.
Okay. So quick quiz, boys. So 5 areas. Now, when this is put in place, excuse me, then the instruction to the team. So the doctor either needs to know how to pull these reports every day from the practice management software. Some of these, like the bank deposit thing, that needs some coordination with the front office team. But again, I'm going to check the patient check-in sheet. Everybody that I saw checked in, and everybody that checked in was seen. Provider day sheet, number 2. Everything I did is on my provider day sheet, and there's nothing that I didn't do that's on that sheet. Okay, there shouldn't be any procedure that is on that sheet that did not get done. Then number 3, adjustments. Are all the adjustments, do I know what they are? Is there anything that's out of line there? Then number 5, bank deposits. Do they match? Is what went in the bank the same as what the deposit, the report said went in the bank? And then finally, a quick review of the audit trail to make sure there's nothing that's been deleted or changed that I'm not aware of that doesn't have an explanation. So again, 5 quick things done on a daily basis. You can go home with peace of mind that everything landed in the right place, or at least appears to have landed. But those 5 things will dramatically cut down on the chances of theft and embezzlement. The ADA says that 50% of dentists admit or report that they have been stolen from at some time in their career by an employee. The other 50% don't know that they have, or they're lying, one of the two. But it's, unfortunately, when you're in business, these are things you have to worry about. You have to work on. So those are
right. Right. I mean, look, you reminded me of our good friend David Harris of Prosperident, right? The leading, embezzlement company for dentistry. He tells a similar story where he's speaking at a conference. How many of you have been embezzled? 40% raise their hand. How many of you think maybe you're getting embezzled? Another 25% raise their hand. He says, and the rest of you have no clue and are probably getting embezzled from, right? Or at least a large portion. That guy has stories time and time again. Steve, Ara, I'm just curious. I mean, what you just laid down. There's so many of our clients that if they did these things, they would sleep better at night, right? Their mental health, right? They wouldn't pop up out of bed at 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever and wonder, shoot, right? Did we actually collect that money, right? And I think these are processes that you've laid out here that can pretty much validate a yes or no to that, right? And I think probably most, if not all, doctors would want some form of validation here. So I think this is really good. Our listeners really, they really value, and I think they connect, I think, a lot with like real life stories, right? Do you have any stories, that you've heard personally where doctors maybe weren't doing this, they injected this into their processes, and then they're like, well, look what we found out, Steve, right? Do you have any like that?
Can we start with my own?
Yeah, of course.
The funny thing is when things like this happen, the first emotion usually is embarrassment. Like,
totally.
Seriously, how did I let this happen? And I've addressed this issue I had one recently where it was so embarrassed to admit that it had happened. It didn't want to do anything about it because of the embarrassment. I said, no, it's like, this happens. It's business. In my own case, this was back several years ago. We were expanding and needed we had some additional positions in one of our accounting departments in one of my companies. We hired a professional accounting placement firm to do the recruiting, vet all the candidates, do background checks, present to us the most qualified people. So they did that. We hired somebody, and about 8 months later, another one of my accounting team came into my office one day and said, there's something not right. And she kind of showed me some things that she'd stumbled across almost by accident. And I dug into it, and sure enough, things were not where they were supposed to be. And so we went to work, and I called a certified fraud investigator. I didn't call the police yet. Called a certified fraud investigator, came in undercover, did all the forensics, gave me exactly what to do and how to do it the right way. So we let her go without cause. And then we did all of the reporting, called our insurance company, and they immediately cut us a check for the amount that had been embezzled because we had crime insurance. And then they took over the case, did their own work. They then got in touch with law enforcement. It ended up being a federal case because it was over the federal limit for embezzlement. So over a certain amount, it becomes a federal crime. So the FBI got involved, and this particular person ended up being convicted and going to prison. Found out in their investigation, they found out that the previous employer, unbeknownst to the previous employer, had lost over $800,000 to this individual over a 10-year period.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's major creditors. So it's happened to me, can happen to anybody. So, and the key is, again, if you put proper checks and balances, it's not 100% insurance, but it'll give you the peace of mind that you're setting everything up to protect everybody, protect yourself, protect your team, protect your people. So here's some just quick additional areas to check periodically. I give you the 5 things to check daily. Here's some just periodic checks. Look at your bank transactions. Okay, like get online and just look through your bank transactions and make sure that you recognize all the charges that are going through your bank, as well as your credit card charges. Just glance at it every once in a while and just make sure that you know and you understand what's there. Insurance payments. So the insurance payments that are coming in, as well as anybody that you're paying, just make sure you know what's going on. Here's a rule: is no purses or bags are allowed in the front office. So if you have team members that are working there, the place for purses and bags is in their locker in the back office, but not at the front desk. Do I need to explain that?
Super straightforward.
Just have the rule and enforce it. That's
exactly.
If you go to Home Depot, if you go to Walgreens, CVS, whatever, any place where they have cashiers that are handling money, they are not allowed to have a purse or a bag with them in that transaction place. It's just too easy to.
Correct.
Just don't create an environment where anybody would ever be tempted to do anything. It's just like they say, a lock on a door doesn't stop a burglar, but what it does stop is the honest people and doing something they shouldn't do, right? Anybody who has nefarious intent is going to figure out a way to do it.
Right.
But you set the system's up so that nobody's tempted to do something they shouldn't do. At least once a year, go sit down with your banker and look at who has access to your accounts and what signature cards are on file. We've had some cases where long-term team members, so the average tenure of an embezzler, want to guess, guys? Average tenure of an embezzler. How long?
7 years.
7 years. I told you that before. Typically, it's the longest term team member who's the first one there in the morning, the last one to leave at night, and they never go on vacation.
Yes.
The team member that you trust the most, right? So again, check with your bank, make sure there's no signature cards you weren't aware of, no accounts in your name attached to you that you don't know what they are. Check your check stock. So if you're still using actual paper checks and you're writing checks or printing checks, check your check stock to make sure that the numbers, that there's no missing check stock. Numbers should be sequential. So we had a situation in our Crown Counsel office several years ago where somebody got into the office over the weekend and stole a number of things, some computers, the whole thing. What we didn't realize is they found the check stock. They took out of the middle of the stack, they extracted some checks.
Wow.
We've never known because they took it out of the middle. They didn't take all of it.
Right.
They just took some of it.
Right.
So that we wouldn't notice. And then they started writing checks. So that's another, most banks have a service now most banks call it positive pay. So the positive pay service basically is a check and balance that anytime a check gets presented for payment, then you get notification and you have to verify that it's a legitimate check. So a lot of checks and balances. Check your payroll records, especially vacation and PTO. So we had a situation with a client not too long ago where the office manager was very generously handing out PTO to all of her friends that were on the team. So, payroll was going out, but unless you look at the payroll record to say, okay, they got paid for this many hours. And so she was just siphoning off PTO and it ended up being tens of thousands of dollars.
It's expensive, right? Especially if you don't catch it for a while, right?
Yeah,
it can be done so passively.
She was the beneficiary of most of the PTO. She was
of course,
every pay period. So again, just you double check. And then I've already mentioned this, fidelity and crime insurance. In my book, it's required. So if you don't know what it is, you probably don't have it. And one of the things to be aware of in your business owner policy that everybody usually has or has to have, business owner policy will have some crime insurance in it, but it's not sufficient. Most business owner policies I've seen will maybe have $5,000 to $10,000 worth of coverage. And I guarantee you that if you ever have an event, it's going to be more than 5 or 10 grand. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be proportionate to the revenue of your practice so that you're covered. And again, it's one of the cheapest forms of insurance. And if you got half the practices that admit that they've been stolen from, this may be the best insurance you ever have. So couple of resources here's one. So this is a group we work with that does risk management. So they're not an insurance agency. They don't sell insurance. They do risk analysis. So in this area, you can send them your business owner policy, whatever policies you have. They'll analyze them for free and send you back where you're exposed. So for example, in this area, of embezzlement, fraud and embezzlement, they'll tell you whether for the size of your practice you got enough coverage or not. There's all kinds of areas, say cyber insurance, one of the biggest areas of risk today. If you get hacked, who's going to pay for it? We have one client, they had a hacking incident, cost them $1 million in lost productivity and ransom they had to pay to get their records back. Another one, $300,000 for a cyber attack. So it's one of and with the new HIPAA high-tech rules, so the HIPAA high-tech rules that just went into effect in January of 2025 have a whole new set of HIPAA requirements as it has to do with records, electronic records. And if you don't report an incident, so if you've been hacked or you leak HIPAA information, if you don't report it properly, it's like $50,000 a day per incident. I mean, it's crazy. So again, where are you exposed? So you can scan this QR code or just, this is a long bit.ly, but you can scan this and maybe you guys can put this in the show notes. Yep. But they'll do a free risk analysis to see where you're exposed, because there's plenty of, not that maybe you don't want to cover every area of exposure, but at least you'll know what kind of risk you're taking. Usually we don't know how good the insurance we have until it's time to file a claim. Everybody's done this. You think you know, but then you have an incident and you call up your agent and go, am I covered for this?
Yeah, right.
And your policy until you make a claim. It's like, crap, I'm not covered for that. So know what you're covered for, especially today.
Correct.
Everything, here's another big one is EPLI. So employer liability insurance is a huge one, so that you're covered as an employee against any potential claims. Errors and omissions, of course, there's professional liability. I mean, there's so many different areas of risk today. So again, just get ready. So you can scan that or go to that mini URL and get a free analysis on that. All right, so here's the quote of all quotes that summarizes what we've talked about today. So Steve Bashan is the controller I told you about that I started this whole explanation. Never trust your accountant. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Steve Bashan. He says, the irony of practicing good controls is that you never know the amount of loss and misery you've avoided because the loss and misery never.
That's
you never know what bullet you dodged when you've got all the right controls in place. So those are five basic ones you got to do every day. Here's one other resource is if you go to this, you can download a summary of what we call the 5-point daily checklist. And I created this just for you guys. So you can go to, this is a bit.ly, so this is a mini URL. So you go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/aligned, ALIGNED. Does that sound familiar, guys? Aligned tops, TOPS. So Aligned Tops, and you can download this free ebook on the 5-point daily checklist. It'll give you all the details of those 5 things to check and how to put it properly in place so you can have the peace of mind of knowing that what you're working for is actually coming in and you're keeping it. 5 simple things.
Yeah, this is good, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, and again, those links will be in the show notes and the show description as well for easy access to be able to click on those and get access to those tools and resources. And look, we've talked about before on the show, Steve, not only are you extremely successful in your own right with the multiple businesses that you own, but also, just again, working with thousands of dentists throughout the years, right? There's a pattern that we see, and the pattern with the successful, I looked at like to review your bank statements. Like we interviewed a client of ours, they've got 8 locations, over 30, completely associate run, over 30% EBITDA. I mean, these guys are absolutely crushing it, right? And what's one of the things they do? They review their bank and credit card statements every single week. And you know what they say? They're like, every single time we do it, we find something on there that we didn't approve or we didn't know, or we were overcharged or we didn't, right? And so it's just one of those things. It's like, I'll never forget. I had a mentor that would tell me, he's like, I check my restaurant check every single time. He's like, I just read through it, just glance through it. He goes, 8 times out of 10, I find something on there that I didn't order, whether it's a soda or whatever. Right?
They didn't serve me and I didn't order.
Yeah, exactly. And so, again, it's just that checks and balances. And so I was thinking this morning when my brain could never shut off. I was in the gym this morning and I was thinking that success is found in repeatedly doing the boring stuff, right? The stuff that no one really wants to do. That the people that are disciplined in doing those 5 things that you talked about are going to have less heartache. You're going to have less stress. You're going to have more peace of mind, right? Are you going to prevent 100% of? Probably no, I don't think but you're certainly going to prevent a lot less than what would have happened and have the peace of mind knowing that. And so I think there's a lot there. And I appreciate you sharing that wisdom and insight and those 5 critical steps that every single doctor should be doing in their practice every day.
Simple things, I love simplicity, and simplicity is complicated. In other words, to get things down to what really matters takes a lot of work, focus, discipline. And so again, 5 simple things, then have the discipline to do them every day, and you'll prevent a lot of loss and misery, but you'll never know it because you'll never experience it.
Totally.
I love it. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your expertise. Steve, if people want to learn more about you or TOPS or see you, I know you do a lot of speaking. Where's the best place to go to hear more about what you're having to share and your wisdom with our industry?
Yeah, so thank you for that. TotalPatientService.com is a good place to start. So TotalPatientService.com. And again, our team of practice advisors, so we do courses all over the country all the time. One of my favorites is our Total Immersion course, which is 2 days of case acceptance focused systems for the entire team. And then our team of practice advisors are out all over the country every day, working hand in hand with teams to implement proven systems for hearing yes more often from your patients. So it's everything from very first phone call to increase your calls to new patients ratio to making sure the money lands in the bank and so that your money says yes to you.
Always a good feeling. And I'll put a plug in here for Crown Council too. I know it's a membership. It's a membership group, but the membership's wildly affordable. It's not crazy, but in my opinion, I think one of the things that you guys have done such a great job of, aside from creating a great culture and within the organization, is the annual event, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for an annual event to bring your team to, that I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but it's not really dental focused, which I think is kind of cool, right? It's more focused around culture and alignment with team and right. And I know you talk a lot about culture. The Crown Council event, I've gone every year. I missed the last couple of years, but I think I probably went 9 or 10 years straight. It's one of the coolest events you could bring your team to, that your team will talk about for the rest of the year, because you guys do such a great job putting that together. So check out Crown Council and their annual event. Where are you guys this next year?
Yeah, so we do it in January every year to kick off the year by design. And so in January of 2026, it will be in one of the most spectacular places in the United States. So we're doing it at the Grand America Hotel. It's a 5-star hotel that was originally built for the Winter Olympics. So the donor basically who built this hotel, he was an oil guy. When I met him, he's no longer with us, but when I met him, he said that the amount of money that they put into building this hotel, he said, I did the math, and he said, if I live to be 1,000 years old, I will never get my money out of this place. Absolutely spectacular. It's one of the nicest hotels in America. So we're going to do it in Salt Lake City, Grand America Hotel. And it's going to be a spectacular day. Jonathan, as you mentioned, the focus of the whole meeting is building the person and building the professional in the practice. So it's all very, very focused on teamwork, how everybody can be their best in order to serve patients at their best. So it's one of the hallmarks of it is in the 30 years we've done that meeting, we've only had 2 dentists that have ever presented from the main stage. And that's what the meeting is. We try and inject the meeting with outside thinking from places that you may not have ever thought of that have relevance to dentistry. And then we apply it to the practice of dentistry so you can get out of the traditional thinking box and explore new ideas and directions.
Yeah, I love that.
For the year.
Yeah, it's a great meeting. So check that out. Crown Council.
CrownCouncil.com would have all the information for the meeting coming up in January.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us again, giving us your time and your expertise and being so willing to be open and sharing this, I think, such a timely and important topic with all of our listeners. And for those of you listening, please go check out Steve Anderson, Tops, and Crown Council. Make sure to follow them on social media. Again, always releasing great information, up to date. They're in the trenches, just like we are every day with doctors just like you, seeing and experiencing what every one of your colleagues is going through. And so let's learn together as a community, and we'll make our industry a better place. And again, Steve, thanks for being here. And Austin, also, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen.
All right. Well, until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for joining us on Dental Wealth Multiplier. To make sure you don't miss an episode, go ahead and click the subscribe button. You can also visit us at dentalwealthmultiplier.com to get access to the links or materials mentioned in today's podcast. You can also see other episodes and get access to the most recent reports, tools, and information to continue your wealth building journey.